You're listening to
The Bart Factor
with your host, Bart Robley.
Hello, everybody. I am Bart Robley, and thank you so much for listening to my podcast, The Bart Factor. I greatly appreciate it. At the top of this thing, I want to thank my two sponsors. I want to thank drummerswag.com, and I want to thank Aquarian Drumheads. I've been an endorser of Aquarian Drumheads for over 20 years now, and they make incredible products. If you're a drummer or new to drums, please check out Aquarian. They're just the best. Also, go to drummerswag.com. A lot of fun T-shirts on there and some great educational material and stuff like that. I also want to thank a lot of people reached out to me lately on social media, or however they email me, they text me, whatever. Hey, I haven't heard one of your podcasts in a while. What's going on? And I really appreciate that because I am definitely not a procrastinator. I'm definitely somebody that I try my best to get everything done and to not let things fall through the cracks. However, the podcast, when I first started it, I had pretty lofty goals for it. Originally, I wanted to do a podcast a week, and and then that went to a podcast a month, and it's for no other reason other than I'm just slammed all the time. And sitting down to put it together, just the time that it takes to do it, I just need to schedule it in better, to be totally honest with you. And but I want to thank everybody who does listen to it and who has asked about it. So here's this one. What I'm going to talk about today is something that that I talk about all the time to my drum students, and that is building good practice habits. About a year and a half ago, I did a video diary that's on YouTube. It's called 30 Days in the Life of a Professional Musician. And the reason that I did it was to kind of, do quick, well, they weren't even quick. Some of them were like 10 or 15 minutes long, but they were just little videos of real, I guess what I would think about as logical anecdotes to fix certain things with your drumming, or to maybe help a young student along who wants to seek music as a profession, and just kind of an in general way to avoid some of the pitfalls that I fell into along the way. Interviewed some great drummers, or when we did it, and a lot of people seemed to like it. Anyway, I got a couple of people recently that said, I really liked the one that you did, the video that I did on practicing and building good practice habits. And one of my students goes, you ought to do one of your podcasts on that because it'll refresh people's memories, and it's just another way to get it out there. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk about having and building good practice habits and good practical practice habits that I like to think that I try to teach to all of my students. So at first, what I want to talk about is some of the stuff that I tell all of my students is this. And I'm talking, when I say I tell all of my students, I talked in the very first lesson. It doesn't matter what your skill level is, if you're a complete beginner or if you've been playing for a while. I'm always honest with everybody when I talk about practicing. And what I always tell everybody is like, look, sometimes when you sit down to practice, it is not fun. And so some of you are listening right now just went, well, why would you do that? You're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Why would you make it a negative right away? I'm not making it a negative. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm just being honest with people, especially young students. And I always say it in a, lighthearted, and I say it so mom and dad can hear, because practicing sometimes isn't fun. Usually when you're practicing something, you're practicing it for a reason, because you're not good at it. You don't know how to do it yet. So that's why we're practicing. We're trying to get better. And a lot of times young people don't really they don't get that at first sometimes. And I think that it's really good to let young students know that. I also think that I say the same thing to people that have been playing for a while, because sometimes if you've been playing for a while and you got a little bit under your belt, and now all of a sudden you're doing new stuff and you can't do it. That can be frustrating. Anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit more in later in the podcast, or I'll talk about it more later in the podcast. But right now, I just want to start from like the beginning levels. And so anyway, I tell all students that, and I equate it to sports, okay? And what I tell people is this. I tell them, look, I can't go over into my desk drawer and get out a magic drumming pill for you to take, and suddenly, poof, you're a drummer, right? It's just not going to happen. You have to put in the work. And I always tell them that, when you see somebody doing something that they're really, really good at, you are witnessing, and no matter what it is, and I equate this stuff to different things. One of the things big time is sports. When you see somebody doing something that they are really, really good at, you are witnessing the end result of a lot of hard work, sometimes years and years and years of hard work. If you're really into sports, let's say, let's say basketball, okay? If you're really into basketball, and let's talk about Michael Jordan. He has long since retired, but when Michael Jordan was playing the game, he was probably, arguably, the best basketball player in the world at the time. And it took him years to get there. He wasn't always the great Michael Jordan that everybody came to know and love. He had to build that. And I know that it's hard to think about, a young Michael Jordan being terrible at basketball, but there was probably a point where maybe he wasn't just awful terrible, but he wasn't really good at it, and he had to practice to get better. So, and again, the end result of a lot of hard work. So I'm really honest with people, especially young kids, about, hey, just put in the time, and I think it's a good thing to kind of let people know that, hey, you're going to have to put in the work, and we want to build good habits, good practice habits to get better. It's easier to build a good habit than it is to break a bad habit. We all know that as adults, and so building good practice habits is very, very, very important. I tell students that the kind of the way that I do it when I sit down to practice is this. I like to sit down and get warmed up, and I kind of tell them to follow these guidelines. I tell them, sit down and warm up, and your warm up can be that you do some rudiments, okay? And we start working on some rudiments. You get your hands going, kind of get the blood going, maybe play some paradiddle, some 5-stroke rolls, some random cues, whatever rudiment it is that you're working on. Just kind of get your hands going and get them warmed up. Then what you do is your book work, and that's what I do. I always have 2 books that I'm working out of. I always have a drum set book that I'm working out of. It can be on a style. It can be on certain feels. It could be odd time, whatever the subject matter is. I have a drum set book that I'm working through all the time. And then I have a snare drum book that I'm working through. It could be, going through Stick Control by George Lawrence Stone for the millionth time, or Syncopation by Ted Reed. Same thing, gone through it a million times, but you find new ways to play it. So always have a snare drum. Maybe it's a book of snare drum solos or short etudes, right? But I always have a snare drum book that I'm working through, and then I always have a list of songs that I have to know. Okay. That I have to know for the band that I work with. Maybe it's a cover song, some new material we're adding into the show. Maybe it's a new original piece, and I'm working off of a demo to put the song together, and we're going to go in and record it and start playing it live. Or maybe it's a piece that I'm going to record with the band, and it's like a one-off thing. I'm going to re-record a song for a movie or for a television commercial or something like that. And it's something that I have to know. So I sit down and I do my work. Then I will play a song that I want to know. Just something that I want to know. Maybe it's a song I've enjoyed my whole life, and I've really liked the drum part, but I've just never sat down to take the time to learn it, and I will do that. So it's something that it will, not only will I learn the song and enjoy it, but it'll also help me be a better player, and I just think that that's a good kind of way to approach it. And one of the things that happens when you hear that, it's like, gosh, that's very time consuming, and it is. There are times. I said at the beginning of the podcast, my reason for not having more of them out was just because I'm a busy person, right? And that I need to schedule time to record my podcast. Well, guess what? I am a busy person, and sometimes I have to schedule time. I literally have to schedule time to practice, and I will, look at my calendar and go, okay, Thursday from noon till 2. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit down and practice, and I turn off the phone. I have a little light on the outside of my studio that I turn on when I'm recording something like right now, so that nobody just walks in the door, barges in, they see the light on, they go, okay, don't walk in, Bart's recording something. So I'll turn that light on. I log out of the computer. I just stay away from everything, and I just sit down and I practice and I get stuff done. And it is very time consuming, right? And you might be saying, well, I don't have that much time. Well, there are times when I can't do that as well, but I still want to get my practice time in. So maybe I have 10 minutes or 15 minutes or a half an hour, and I'll sit down and do, okay, I won't get through everything, but, maybe I'll get warmed up a little bit and maybe work out of a book, or maybe I'll get warmed up a little bit and maybe I have a rehearsal that night, and so I'll run through the couple of songs that I've got to have ready for the rehearsal, but when time is tight, I just have to, you have to pick and choose what you need to do. And I tell students that they can follow that same exact guideline, because every student has a song that they have to know how to play. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's for a drum lesson that you're taking in a week that you've been working on with your teacher, or maybe it's, a performance piece at school, or maybe for an audition for marching band, whatever. But learn your stuff that you have to know. And then the other thing that I tell everybody too is don't make excuses for why you didn't practice. Now, as a joke, I have, and it's maybe tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but I say it jokingly so no one gets offended. I have a list in front of both of my drumming stations that I teach at. And what I mean by drumming stations is I have the drum set where the student sits, and then I have a snare drum station where the student will sit and just work on snare drum pieces. Anyway, I have a list of excuses that I've heard over the years, and on top of the list, it is the Bart Cave's top 10 list of unacceptable excuses for not practicing. And that's the part where I say it jokingly, but here's the ones where I tell people when they say they didn't practice and I ask them why, I go, look at the list before you answer it. Because and they're in no particular order, I just have them written down. But number one was, I was busy. Well, we're all busy. We were busy. So now you're lumping in, mom and dad, and, the young kids do that. Lump it in the family with, well, we were busy. Again, we're all busy. I had homework. Everybody has homework. Everybody, right? You're taking drum lessons for a reason. You want to get better. Maybe you should think about your drum lessons practice time like you would homework. Just get a little bit of it done. 5 or 10 minutes a day will do you a great deal of good. I didn't have time. And then I'll go, I always ask the question, if they say, I just didn't have time. They go from, I had so much homework and we were busy and I just didn't have time. And I go, well, did you play any video games last week? Oh, yeah, man, we played blah, blah, blah. Well, why didn't you practice instead of playing the video game? And, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. So anyway, that's, we can make time. Another one I have, number 5, is I lost my sticks or my music or my books. Don't lose your stuff. Be responsible for your music, your sticks, and your books. I forgot. That's another one. I forgot. How can you forget to practice? Mom and dad did not tell me to practice. And when I did practice, they told me it was too loud. Well, mom and dad are not the ones that are taking lessons. You are. And I'm sure they understand that it's going to be fairly loud if they're saying that it's okay for you to take drum lessons. So they probably can put up with it. We can also pad up the drums, and there's a lot of things we can do to fix the volume, right? you didn't tell me what to practice. So then they tell me that it's my fault. I didn't tell you what to practice. Well, for myself personally, and I don't know how other drum teachers work, but what I do is in my students' books, I always put a little fold, a dog ear up in the corner, and and I write the date of the lesson on there, and then I'll tell them, okay, have page 42 in this book done, and on this date, and then I also write the BPMs. See right there, I told you what to practice. I didn't know what to practice. Well, again, you got to look in the book, open it up, and see what page you're on, and it'll tell you exactly what to do. Then this is another one that I get from time to time, not that often, but you didn't text me or email me or call me and tell me to practice. I didn't. Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. So anyway, those are and like I say, it's hanging on the wall, and it's more of a fun anecdotal thing than anything. But we all have excuses and reasons why we don't practice, and just don't make the excuses. Just do the work, and you will get better. Again, the drudgery thing, right? Sometimes people will turn practice into drudgery, right? And I joke about it. You're sitting in a room by yourself with a practice pad that's got a big chunk of rubber on it, and you're beating on it with a stick. Some people would walk in and say, man, that he's lost his mind. But that's what we have to do to get better, right? So pick up the sticks, pick up the pad, put the work in, and go for it. Make sure you set goals for yourself. Setting goals for yourself. Let's say we're talking about rudiments real quick. You're setting goals for yourself. You want to work on paradiddles. Okay, we want to play some paradiddles, and so we'll work on them and make a little mark. Hey, it's Monday, and I played my paradiddles, and I played them for 10 minutes, and I was at 80 beats a minute, and then every day, do it for 10 minutes and see how fast you can get them. Maybe by Friday you'll be at 120 or beyond that, and watch your progress, and then write down, set up a goal, set a goal for yourself to get better. I think it's really important to set goals for yourself. Now, I kind of start talking more now to like some of the adult students. I think it's, that maybe is playing for a while. I think it's very important to always be setting goals for yourself. And it could be as simple as that. It could be as simple as, hey, I want to play paradiddles at 200 beats a minute. Okay, well, set that goal. And when you set the goal, write the goal out. Write it down, with a old school. Get a piece of paper and a pencil in your own handwriting. Write it down and stick it on the wall in front of your drum set. And then, follow it, look at it every day. You'll see it. I think when you put something on paper and you see it every day, I think you've put it out there, and as corny as that sounds, you've kind of like committed to it. Like, this is what I want to do. I wrote it down. I want to do it so bad that I wrote it down and I stuck it on the wall. And then you start watching your progress. Well, okay, I want to be at 200 beats a minute on my paradiddles, and I'm at 120, and it's January 3rd. Well, see how long it takes you, and maybe set your goal. So, okay, well, it's January 3rd. I'm at this tempo, but by June I want to be at 200, and that maybe be a long-term goal for yourself. But don't set it so far out there that it's like, oh, in 5 years I want to be able to do it. No, hold your feet to the fire. It's going to help you a lot. Also, adult students, sometimes they want to take drum lessons and they want to get better. But they don't know what they want to learn. They just want to get better. So kind of what I tell people when they come to me and they've been playing for a while, I'm like, okay, what is it that you want to work on? Oh, I don't know. I want to get better. Well, what is some of the things that you want to get better at? Like for myself personally, maybe I want to work on, a lot of times students will come to me to work on reading, or maybe I want to work on reading. So I'll just get some charts and run through them, work on my reading. Or maybe I want to work on a new style. Maybe I want to work on brushes. Maybe I want to work on some Latin, play some bossa novas or something like that. But know what it is that you want to learn, and then seek that out. Obviously, books, listen to music, YouTube. There's so many. There's no reason why you, especially in this day and age, that you can't learn and you can't get better. The other thing that I tell all adult students, when they come in to take lessons, a lot of times what I'll see with adult students is they'll have like a very basic rudimentary knowledge of drumming, right? They might know if you're looking at a rudiment sheet, when I say rudimentary knowledge of drumming, I'm talking about as a whole. But if we look at a rudiment sheet, there's 40 essential rudiments, and maybe they know 3 of them. Seriously, or maybe they know more, but sometimes I just know 2 or 3. Okay, well, so you got a little bit of knowledge there, and then maybe they can read a little bit of music, they can read a few grooves, but then they can play a million songs because they've been playing in bands their whole life, and they kind of, they watch drummers and listen to drummers and learn it themselves, but it's that part, there's that giant void in the middle where we want to start filling that stuff in, right? Whether it be with reading or different styles or working on, technique or, maybe it's double bass, whatever. Know what that is and start filling that in. I also tell a lot of times adult people, when it's kind of tough sometimes if you're in that situation. Because if you have been in a band for your whole life and you've been playing forever and you know how to play all these songs, now all of a sudden you start going and putting yourself into drum lessons and you start playing stuff that you just cannot play. You just can't do it, and it's not only a knowledge thing, but it's a coordination thing. It's really easy to do the sour grapes thing and go, oh, forget it. I didn't want to, look, I'm already in a band. I'm already doing it. It doesn't matter. I don't need to be able to do that thing that I can't play. It's really easy to get frustrated with oneself and walk away. Don't do that to yourself. Sometimes that's just our ego talking, and it's, don't do that to yourself. If you can't do something, go back to what I was saying to the younger students. There's no magic drumming pill. If you want to get better, you have to get better. A lot of times you have to put in the time to get better, I should say. I have sometimes some adult students will come in and they'll be like, well, I don't necessarily want to work on my rudiments. I just want to, I don't know, just show me some new grooves and some drum fills. Okay, I got this really cool little drum fill I'm going to do, and I'll show it to you. It's really kind of a cool polyrhythmic thing, and it's Swiss Army triplets with a flam tap at the end, but we don't think about it as triplets. We think about it as 16th notes, and it lands really cool, and it has a great feel to it. Well, if you don't know the rudiments, I can't teach you that drum fill, and that's just one example, So again, don't be afraid to, with adult students sometimes, and sometimes our ego talks to us too much, and I don't want to go back and learn that stuff. Nobody knows, I play all these songs and I don't need to know that stuff, Well, now you kind of do, because that the rudiments and reading and all that stuff, that's the building blocks of drumming. So sit down, get with the teacher, and just work on them, and I think the most important thing out of everything I just said is be patient with yourself. Back to the magic drumming pill thing again. I can't, there's no such thing as a magic drumming pill. You can't just go and take one and poof, you're a drummer. Because believe me, if there were magic drumming pills, I would take one. This is something that I very much love to do, but man, I'd make it easier on myself. And then, I would definitely, I try to be, again, kind of take my own pill there, so to speak, back to that. I have to be patient with myself too, because there are times when you sit down to play something, you just, wow, man, I really do need to practice. I can't play this, So just be patient with yourself, because I know that I have to do that. The other thing I tell a lot of people, and I tell people, don't wait, go for it. The longer you wait and the more you put it off, the more you're going to just wish you would have done it, So don't wait, go for it. Motivation is everywhere. I tell my students that all the time. I had, for a long time on Facebook, social media stuff, I would do that. I would find videos of drummers or guitar players or just musicians, doing something phenomenal, and I'd put it on Facebook, and I would use that quote, motivation is everywhere, Be motivated. See somebody play. Somebody sent me a video the other day and put it on my and that's something that's been really cool. Like the last few years, all the time, people will post things on my Facebook wall going, "Hey, Bart, is this one of your students?" Or "Check this guy out." They'll say something nice, and there'll be this, 11-year-old kid just killing it on the drums, and God, I love that. It's so cool, Or I got a video the other day of this guy. He was in a chair. This man had no arms. He had no arms at all, like from the shoulders. I don't know if he was born that way or if he was in a tragic accident or whatever, but he did not have arms, and he was playing the drums with his feet. Now, I'm not talking about the bass drum, double bass pedal or anything like that. I'm talking about he had sticks in his toes, and he was playing his ass off. This guy was phenomenal. Now, that is incredible, and I think that's huge, huge, huge motivation, man. Motivation is everywhere. If you need motivation, seek it out. I had one of my podcasts that I did a while ago. You can go back and listen to it with my buddy Dave Good. I've known Dave for years. Dave is an amazing player, and I interviewed him for one of the podcasts, and we just had a great time. He came over and we talked shop and got to hang out, and it was awesome. Anyway, when I was doing the podcast with Dave, he was talking. I asked him, I go, "So what are you practicing these days, Dave?" And he's telling me a few things he's practicing, and he goes, "What I want to do is I want to go through the cookbook open-handed, meaning that, you're playing the hi-hat with your left hand." And there's two different cookbooks, and just in case you're wondering too, as a side note, they're both put out by Mel Bay. I'm not sure what years they came out. One is called the Jazz Drummer's Cookbook, and one of them is called just the Cookbook for today's contemporary rock drummer, I think is what the subtitle is, something like that. I don't know, but you can find it. Mel Bay is the cookbook, and there's one for jazz, one for rock, and the one for rock is the one that Dave was talking about, and he goes, "I want to go through it open-handed." So, I use that as motivation. And when he left, at first I thought, I could probably do that because I play a couple parts open-handed. I got the book out. I put it up on the music stand. It took me a week to get through the first groove. It was so hard, man. My brain didn't work that way because they're pretty in-depth grooves. And anyway, so I'm happy to say I think I'm on groove 168 now. But my long-term goal, and I haven't set a date for it, it's just I'm going to play through the book open-handed. And I'm finding that two things by doing that, by getting that piece of motivation. Again, motivation is everywhere. My buddy Dave motivated me to do that. Not only has it helped my playing, but I'm a firm believer that you never know where your life is going to go, especially in the music business. You don't know what's going to happen or what's down the road. And lo and behold, we have a new original song that we haven't recorded it yet. I'm ready to record it though. I'm going to probably go in the studio here in the next week or so and lay down the drums to it. But to pull this part off, I got to play it open-handed. And so I, just out of dumb luck, I'm already working on this stuff. And it really came together fairly easy for me because the work I had been putting in already on practicing open-handed. And so, see, motivation is everywhere, and sometimes you don't have to be seeking it out. It just kind of lands in your lap. Dave said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to play through the cookbook open-handed." And I was like, I got to do that too. And it's been a lot of fun doing that. Last but not least, this is the last piece of little information I give everybody on their practice habits. Is once you are practicing, you've seeked out the motivation, you've sat down, you've put in the work, you've put in the paradiddles, you've come up with the schedule, you're doing all your stuff to become a better drummer. Absolutely. And I always tell people, listen to other drummers, watch other drummers, listen to other drummers all the time, listen to records, listen to, whatever, listen to different styles. But hands down, 100%, whatever you do, do not compare yourself to other players. Do not compare yourself to other players because it will kill you. It will, and it can really be, it can be something that goes from being a motivational thing to something that makes you go, forget it. I'll never be that good. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, if for those of you who know who Todd Sucherman is, he's the drummer for Styx. Todd Sucherman is an amazing drummer. This cat, oh my God, he can play. That guy plays the drums, man. He's phenomenal. And he has, I think it's a Zoom camera. I'm not 100% sure what the product is, but he always takes this camera and he sets it up usually off to his left on the drum set and records the concerts. And then he'll put little snitbits from the concerts up on Facebook of him just slaying it. I mean, just killing. And it's so easy to look at that and just go, why do I even try? The guy's so good. But I think a lot of people do say that, I like right there when I said it to myself, I'm kind of joking about it. I mean, because I am trying. I will sit down and go, what was it that he did? And I'll sit there and try to work it out and figure it out. But I think a lot of people, and I know I've been guilty of this myself, and that's why I'm telling people, don't compare yourself to people, because it is really easy to see somebody like Todd Sucherman play, or Neil Peart, or Mike Portnoy, or, go down the laundry list of anybody that's in Modern Drummer magazine and just go, oh my God. These guys are so good. I'll never do that. And I'm just, no, you can't do that. You can't compare yourself and beat yourself up. Remember, we don't work the drums. We play the drums. And when you play, the name of the game is to have fun. So, wrapping it all up. Yes, you have to build practice habits sometimes, and I'll go back to what I tell every beginning student and what I said at the top of the podcast. Practicing can be monotonous and can be kind of not fun sometimes, but you have to go through it, right? Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. When you're sitting in your practice room and you're playing, okay, I'll go back and say it again. When you're playing paradiddles, people think probably the only rudiment I know is a paradiddle. When you're playing Radamucus, okay, you're in your practice room, you're playing Radamucus, and you're thinking to yourself, why am I sitting here beating on this rubber pad? Well, you want to, if you really want it bad enough and you want to be the guy on stage or the girl on stage, and you want to be the person that, like I said, when you see somebody doing something good, whatever it may be, whether it's a musical instrument or sports or driving a race car or cooking or whatever, you're witnessing the end result of a lot of hard work most of the time. If you want to be that person, you're going to have to go through the work. But at the end of the day, do all those things, build the good habits, and really enjoy it. Really enjoy the ride of getting better personally. When you're playing in a band and you're working with a group, sometimes that's a lot of work in and of itself. And sometimes the only person that you have any control over at all in any walk of life is yourself. So make sure that when you're stepping up there to play, whether it be with your own personal band or a school band or a church band or you're just doing it for yourself, be the best you that you can be and have a lot of fun with it. Have a good time while you're learning, because again, at the end of the day, we don't work the drums, we play the drums. I am Bart Robley. I want to say thank you again for listening. I want to, hopefully this podcast was motivational and helpful for you. If you do have any questions or you want to take some lessons or whatever, please seek me out. I would love to help anybody out there with their goals and with their musical aspirations, and love to meet you. So anyway, get in touch with me if that's something that you're interested in, and if not, and you're just a drummer listening to this, happy drumming. Have a great time, and have a lot of fun playing drums. I will see you guys in the next episode of the Bart Factor. We'll see you soon.